You're listening to This Week in Big Sky Football, a comprehensive look at all this week's action in Big Sky Football. Now here's your host, Scott Gerard.
Welcome back. You're listening to another edition of This Week in Big Sky Football. Thanks for joining us. The regular season is complete, and now it's time for the FCS playoffs. I'm Scott Gerard. Big thanks to Jake Hatch, who's filling in for Lloyd Cole. Behind the glass, we got a great show lined up for you today. Eastern Washington head coach Aaron Best, UC Davis head coach Dan Hawkins, Weber State head coach Jay Hill, and then in our final segment, we'll wrap things up with Craig Haley from Stats. Time to recap last week's action and preview the playoffs. Eastern Washington, UC Davis, Weber State all finished conference play at 7-1 to share the Big Sky title. It was the second straight for the Wildcats, first ever for the Aggies, and the 13th overall for the Eagles. The Eagles, Aggies, and Wildcats all earning first-round byes and were seeded in the committee's top 8. Montana State topped Montana in a crazy, thrilling game in Missoula to earn the number 7, to earn win number 7 and earn an at-large bid to the FCS playoffs, and that adds up to 4 Big Sky teams represented in this week's FCS playoffs. So without any further ado, let's welcome in Eastern Washington head coach Aaron Best. Coach, how you doing?
Good, Scott. Thanks. Appreciate being on.
Hey, we appreciate it. I know it's a busy time for you, but thanks for carving out a few moments for us. How did it feel like on Sunday when your team's name officially came up during the selection show?
Different than a year ago, I'll tell you that. You know, we were kind of sitting on the edge of our seats, and 2017 didn't see our name, thought it was a misprint, and we ensued with a team meeting to kind of address the season capsule. And this time around, we knew we were going to be in, just a matter of where and where we were going to be playing, where we're going to be at, if there was a seat available. And so it's much different this year based on the selection of us. But we did enough work this year. And, again, our motto going into the year was leave no doubt, and we did that the entire way.
You know, this conference is so loaded and so many good teams. I'm glad to see the conference got 4 teams in. As a head coach in this league, I got to imagine 4's got to be the number every year, does it not?
It's great. The more the merrier, and from top to bottom, us coaches, we got together in our Big Sky meetings over the summer to kind of introduce the 2018 season. We talked amongst ourselves and said from top to bottom, and there's been a lot of guys in a lot of years in this league, it was going to be as competitive as it ever was, and it sure was. I mean, it brought back some new people to the party, some old people to the party, and made for some momentous games along the way. So each and every week you got to bring your A game to have a chance, and it was great to see 4 teams at the end of the day of the 24 that got into the tournament from this conference, which is a highly regarded conference, and we got to continue the momentum for years to come.
Coach, and this is a question I'm going to ask a lot of the other 2 coaches that have bye weeks this week. How do you handle this bye week with your players? Do you treat it like an in-season bye week? Do you work them a little bit harder, or maybe pull it back a little bit with the grind of a long regular season? How do you handle this?
Well, since the bye week after week 6 for us happened, it was smack dab in the middle of the year, which ended up being a good spot, even though we didn't like the outcome in Ogden prior to our first bye. It's similar in feeling. The nice thing about it is with a bye, the first week of the playoffs is the distractions of the Thanksgiving weekend. The school is only in session for a few days here. We're a quarter system, so they have school Monday, Tuesday, and then they're off Wednesday. So there's a lot of differences during this bye week than there is during the regular season bye week. And so we treat practice the same. We'll rest guys that need to be rested, but our focus this week, and we talked about it yesterday in their team meeting, is school on day 1 and 2, which is Monday, Tuesday, family Wednesday, Thursday, and then friends on Friday, Saturday, and then we'll get back to work on Sunday. So school, family, friends is kind of our motto this week, but we'll get 3 good practices in, get 2 lifts in. So it's kind of status quo a little bit as far as the bye week's concerned, because we don't want to lose sight of what we've built up to this point.
You had a lot of individual honors, including the Defensive Player of the Year. What does that mean for your team, and what does that mean for some of these guys who have certainly busted their tail week in and week out?
Yeah, I'm just so proud of our guys overall from a totality standpoint, with 18 guys being recognized from, all the way from first team to honorable mention. But I give a lot of credit to Jeff Schmitting and that defensive side, really putting us on the map. That's something that we've really strived for here in the last 4 to 5 years to get better at. Certainly in the 2 years of myself being the head coach is being respected on defense, and JT certainly earned the right to be Defensive Player of the Year in the conference. Even though his stats aren't eye-popping, he is certainly a destructive person when it comes to not only the run game, but also the drop-back pass game as well, and very, very well earned. Nothing is deserved. It's all earned, and his redshirt year last year ended his season early, came back for a fifth fall, and he was a menace to every team we faced. And so he, along with the other 17 individuals, got recognized. We have the number one offense in the conference. Wish we would have been a little bit more well represented on that side of the ball, but to say we have 17 of our student athletes being recognized, everything from first team to honorable mention, is the kind of they've earned that, they've worked to that, and obviously winning from the team side of things helps that as well.
You play the winner of that Nicholls-San Diego game. What do you know about those two programs, and how's your preparation going this week for that?
Well, I know that they're both conference champions, and when you get to this point of the season, you're going to face everybody's best shot. You're going to face champions from around the country. A lot of the guys that have been in this tournament before have faced multiple opponents, and everybody's tough week in and week out. The preparation has been non-existent thus far. Trying to capture some film, that's the first thing before we start any preparation. But like I've always stated to the coaches and everybody outside of the facility is we don't prepare for anybody for more than 1 week. So why would we start and do things differently? So we'll peek at the film once we get it, but our preparation really won't start until the weekend because we want to enjoy the fruits of our labor as far as getting that initial bye in the first round.
Always a pleasure to catch up with you, Coach. Thanks for your time. Good luck, and keep it rolling, all right?
Thanks.
You got it. Aaron Best, head coach at Eastern Washington, as the Eagles have a bye week and will be playing the second round in Cheney next Saturday. Take a quick break, come back. Segment number 2, we got UC Davis head coach Dan Hawkins straight ahead on This Week in Big Sky Football.
Pluto TV is your one-stop shop for Big Sky action. The leading free internet television service in America will stream live sporting events, including up to 700 football, men's and women's basketball, volleyball, and selected soccer, softball, and track and field events. Simply go to Pluto TV to find games from several different sports. Pluto TV is your one-stop shop for all Big Sky action. Welcome back to This Week in Big Sky Football.
Welcome on back. You're listening to another edition of This Week in Big Sky Football. I'm Scott Gerard. Pluto TV is your leading free internet service in America. As part of that deal, the Big Sky Conference will air all of its live streamed sports events on Pluto TV for free, including up to 700 football, men's and women's basketball, volleyball, and selected soccer, softball, and track and field events. It's real simple. All you have to do is go to Watch Big Sky on Pluto TV to find games from different sports. All right, playoff times is upon us. It's time to go out to the phones and welcome in UC Davis head coach Dan Hawkins. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing terrific, guys. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for carving out a few moments for us. Look, I know you've had a lot of different teams that you've coached, and you've had a lot of great success in your coaching career, but how does it feel to be an Aggie alum and now the head coach at UC Davis and have them competing in the FCS playoffs for the first time in school history?
Well, what's so cool about it for me is just really a mesh between philosophy and beliefs and what sport is and football, and all of us that went to UC Davis and played for Hall of Fame coach Jim Soker and Bob Foster and Bob Biggs, and I think we all believe in certain things about football and life and school and how it all goes together, and to come back and be a part of something that was such a big part of all of our lives and help reinvigorate that is a really satisfying experience. And it's great to build. Our athletic director, Kevin Blue, and our chancellor, Gary May, are very supportive. We just announced we're going to build a $40 million football facility at our stadium. And so it's a great time, really, to be an Aggie. And we just have such great kids on our team and a great staff. It's just it's a cool story, even if you just take yourself out of it. It's a cool story about a good school. It's had great tradition and really people rowing hard in the same direction to kind of get things going about a way of life they believe very strongly in.
Well, you talk about that way of life and the connection to the school. When you look at that coaching staff, you do have a few alumni on board. Did that come together how did that come together, and how much does that help in your coaching run here at UC Davis?
Well, it's huge, and then we obviously have some guys that have been with us at various places along the way. But Tim Plow, our offensive coordinator, I've known about Tim for a long time, and all the Davis coaches told me, hey, this guy's special, and I sort of followed him at Davis. And, of course, he went to NAU and had great success and has done a great job here with our offense. And Robert Tucker has been with me since our Willamette days in Boise and Colorado, and Tim Keene is another Aggie that played and coached here, and those guys certainly have a love for it. But we have a really good, well-grounded coaching staff that really love the players and treat the players well, and really good teachers. That's where it all starts.
Quarterback Jake Mayer is named the Big Sky Offensive Player of the Year. Talk a little bit about his work ethic and what he brings to the table and how special he's been for your team this year.
Yeah, Jake, we call him the mayor of Shredville, but he's just I've been around a lot of really good quarterbacks, and starting with Ken O'Brien back when I played at Davis and was a first-round pick for the Jets. But Jake is just such a great leader, really organizes, runs our team. Everything runs through him, all of our off-season things. And he's really a leader in every sense of the word, and we need that more in our country more than anything. And a leader's not just somebody that goes out and works hard. I mean, he cares enough to help others out. If he's got to rattle some cages, he can do that. He knows the way, goes the way, shows the way. Tim Plow's done an amazing job bringing him along. And then, Keelan Doss, who's really phenomenal and was the Offensive Player of the Year last year, is still on our team, and it's hard to split it between those two guys because they're both phenomenal people who are extremely humble and really team-oriented guys. And that's the thing I don't know if I feel bad about it, just incomplete. People look at their stats and what they do and go, oh, those guys are great players. And I'm going, man, if you just spent some time around these guys and saw what kind of people they were, you'd be just totally amazed.
You play the winner of Lamar and Northern Iowa in the second round. What's the early preparation process like when you don't know who you're going to play until Saturday? What's that process like for you as a coaching staff, and what's that preparation about?
Yeah, fortunately, I've been through several of these situations, both in a playoff situation and a bowl game before, and I have been able to kind of matriculate it fairly successfully. But we went through our normal Monday like we always do. We're always about correction and review and trying to get better each week and regardless of the score. And so we went through that on Monday. And today we actually traveled up the hill. Our air quality is actually good in Davis, but is better up here. So it's kind of fun just for us to do a little team bonding. But we're going to practice hard. We're going to work on a lot of fundamentals. We won't get into a lot of the early tactical stuff right now. We are looking at a little bit of film on both of those teams, some of the stuff that we do have, and trying to get a little bit of an idea. But it's really a chance for us to get some wind back underneath our wings, work on our conditioning and our lifting, work on our fundamentals, work with our young guys, keep working on our depth. We play a lot of guys. They'll get a chance to go home for Thanksgiving, which is great. They deserve that break. And then we'll get them back over the weekend and get going for whoever we play the following week.
Well, Coach, good luck throughout the playoffs. We appreciate your time, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, you bet. It's been a real honor. This is a great, great league, and, boy, going through all those all-conference picks, a lot of great coaches and a lot of great players in this league, so it's a real honor to represent the Sky. Been around this league for a long time, so it's an honor. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you. UC Davis head coach Dan Hawkins. The Aggies will play at home in Davis coming up next Saturday. Take a break, come back, and Jay Hill from Weber State will join us coming up in our next segment. You're listening to another edition of This Week in Big Sky Football.
CenturyLink Arena plays host to the 2019 Big Sky Men's and Women's Basketball Championships in Boise. Postseason college basketball is back in Boise, and we have your front row seat to the event. The women's tournament will be held March 11th through the 15th, while the men's championship will take place March 13th through the 16th. The wait is over. 22 teams, 20 games, 2 champions. Don't miss your chance to buy tickets for this fun-filled week of basketball. Tickets are on sale now at BigSkyInBoise.com.
Welcome back to This Week in Big Sky Football.
Welcome on back. You're listening to another edition of This Week in Big Sky Football. I'm Scott Gerard. Time to announce your Root Sports Players of the Week. Start with Jake Mayer, helping UC Davis clinch his share of the Big Sky title and win the Causeway Classic with a 56-13 victory over Sac State to earn the Root Sports Co-Offensive Player of the Week honors. Junior quarterback completed 37 of 46 passes for 478 yards and no picks, also throwing 4 touchdowns and running for 2. Sophomore quarterback Eric Barrier led Eastern Washington with 6 touchdowns, 315 yards of offense in Eastern's victory over Portland State, 74-23. Linebacker Grant Collins named your Root Sports Defensive Player of the Week for his efforts in Montana State's crazy 29-25 victory over Montana. How about 12 tackles, including 1 for a loss? He also forced 2 fumbles and recovered 1. And Aggie punter Daniel Whalen, an integral part of why the Hornets were limited to 13 points on the day. He averaged 42 yards per punt, while Sacramento State had 0 punt return yards to earn the Root Sports Special Teams Player of the Week honors. All right, Root Sports is your official television partner of the Big Sky Conference. Let's go out to the phones. Welcome in Weber State head coach Jay Hill. Coach, how are you?
Good, Scotty. What's up?
I'm doing well. Coach, not as good as you are. Congratulations. You come in with the 2 seed. You end up with another conference championship game. What's the mood up there in Ogden like right now?
Well, I think obviously very high. The players are excited. The coaches are excited about, the conference championship. And this league is such a bloodbath, and it's such a hard grind to get through it. To come out on top is obviously a huge accomplishment.
You bring that up. I think it's a really good point about the conference because, I've been doing this show for a lot of years, and it seems like back-to-back championships are very, very rare just because of the competitive nature of this league. To be able to get it done, I don't think is lost on this coaching staff. I mean, I think if anybody appreciates how difficult it is, it's your staff. Just how much pride do you take in that?
Well, a lot. I'm very proud of the assistant coaches and the hard work they put in all year. The players have bought into this program and what we are all about, and the toughness and discipline that it takes to, rebound from a loss that we had 7 weeks ago and go 6 straight. There's so much that goes into it, and there's so many hard, tough fought games. Like even they're going down the stretch when we had to beat Sac State and Southern Utah and Idaho State, and people are all saying, well, you look at their records and you should win those games. Bull, those guys are tough teams, and it's a reflection of how good everybody else is in the league that you can have such good teams that you're going to play and might not have a great record, but they're still dang good teams out there.
Saw the video of the room where your team was at when the FCS committee's bracket was revealed and your Wildcats got the number 2 team overall, and the celebration. What was it like in that room?
We knew going in pretty much that 4 seed more than likely. We just had to win, but you never know how the committee's going to people are trying to blow other teams out just to get some style points and other things like that. And that's just never been us, to go out and just blow someone out just to try to get some style points from somebody else. That's never been, I don't believe in that. Ethically, I don't think it's what the game's all about. And so I always worry about that philosophy. And I'm glad that the committee saw it correctly, that, even though we weren't winning by 60 points, we were still that number 2 team.
Yeah. So you sit back and you await the winner of Southeast Missouri versus Stony Brook. Do you do some initial game planning on both those teams? Do you wait for the winner to come out? How do you handle that as a coach?
No. Our coaches right now are in the room, and I've already watched three games on each team, and we're already in the initial stages and processes of coming up with initial game plans. Now, we won't finalize those until we know exactly who we're playing, but we're already well into the game preparation and even practice. We had an hour or so practice yesterday where we got a good jump start on both teams, and I don't want to wait. That's not smart on our part. That's not handling business the way we need to. So we're going.
As far as how you treat your players, do you treat it like maybe an in-season bye week where you give them a little bit of rest, or how do you handle that in terms of how you treat your players in the practice time?
Well, you bring up a good point that I'm trying to figure out right now myself. I've called a lot of my colleagues that I trust, that people that I'm close to, and trying to figure out the best way to handle the bye week. Quite frankly, we've not been very good coming off byes. And so this is something that we want to get better at, and it's a little different this year because it's Thanksgiving, and I think players, when they can, deserve an opportunity to go home and be with families. And so we're trying to balance that the best we can, but we got to get some work done too. And so it's both. It's get ready for preparation, it's practice well, but we got to be ready to go when December 1st rolls around.
All conference awards were announced this weekend. Wildcats racked up 18 honors, 13 on the first team. In addition, Josh Davis named your freshman of the year. As a coach, I know that this game isn't about individual honors. It's about the team, and because of the team, a lot of these guys are able to pick up honors. But you got to be happy for a lot of these kids individually as well.
Oh, so happy for them, and I'm glad that the coaches and everybody else saw it the way I did. I felt we had a bunch of really, really good players that have been in this league and won a lot of games, and to be back-to-back champions and stuff, I think proves that a lot of these players deserve to be on this list. But, 13 first-teamers, and I think it was, 8 on the first-team defense, just shows you what these guys really have accomplished. And I'm lucky to have an opportunity to coach those guys and such high-caliber people and dang good players.
Coach, couldn't be happier for you. Congratulations on all your success. Keep it rolling, and look forward to catching up with you again here very soon.
Okay, Scotty. Thanks, buddy.
You got it. Weber State will be in action this next weekend for the second round action. When we come back, we'll chat with Stats Craig Haley in the final segment of the show. You're listening to This Week in Big Sky Football.
The 2019 Big Sky Men's and Women's Basketball Championships are headed to Boise. Buy your tickets now for a fun-filled week with basketball for all to enjoy. Purchase your tickets today by visiting BigSkyInBoise.com. That's BigSkyInBoise.com.
Welcome back to This Week in Big Sky Football.
Welcome back. Final segment of the show. You're listening to another edition of This Week in Big Sky Football. This week, the Big Sky will have one game on TV as the other three playoff teams sit back and wait the winner of other first-round action. Montana State will host Incarnate Word at 1 o'clock Mountain Time live on ESPN3. So with that, let's go out to the phones. Welcome in FCS Senior Editor of Stats. You know him, you love him, and he's a busy man this time of year. Craig Haley from Stats. Craig, how are you?
Doing well, thank you.
All right, Craig, it's playoff time. The 2014 field was released. What were your thoughts on the field of 24?
Well, last year I think it was more a matter of who didn't get in, and Eastern Washington had a big gripe and well warranted. This year I just think it was the way the bracket was constructed. I mean, there seems to be an awful lot of tough teams, too many perhaps on North Dakota State's side of the bracket, which is, the number one seed. So I think that was, what stands out. Now, there's selection criteria that the committee has to go by, so it's not necessarily their fault when it comes to regionalization of the tournament. But that stood out to me more than anything.
Big Sky receiving 3 out of the top 8 seeds, the only league with 3 seeds. What do you think led to that, and what was the committee's thought process there?
Well, you have to look at the consistency of the 3 Big Sky teams. I mean, UC Davis, Weber, Eastern, they just, avoided upsets throughout the year. I mean, they have 1 combined loss against each other or against teams other than themselves. You look at some of the other, big leagues around the nation. I mean, the CAA teams just knocked each other off relentlessly. The Missouri Valley had its ups and downs behind North Dakota State, where these, the 3 champs in the Big Sky just avoided the upsets. I mean, you add that up to a 7-1 league record and 9-2 overall. You can't deny having 3 seeds. It was deserved.
What are some of your first round games you're keeping a very close eye on? I mean, obviously you're keeping tabs on all of them, but as far as in intriguing matchups, what are some of the games to keep an eye on?
Sure, and obviously, Montana State has its game this week. But I mean, if there's one big one I'm looking at, it's certainly James Madison hosting Delaware. A CAA matchup. I mean, JMU is miffed to be playing in the first round, not have a bye. They're playing because they didn't meet in conference this year. JMU is the better team, but Delaware is so physical on defense that I really think it could affect the Dukes going forward after this round. We'll see. I mean, there's close matchups everywhere. It's always a fun first round, and especially in the early rounds when it's regional, that makes it even better. Like an ETSU down in Tennessee, going to Jacksonville State, those ones really stoke the fires with fans. So I do think there's some terrific matchups. Obviously, Montana State should win at home, I think, against sort of a young Incarnate Word team.
One, you mentioned the layout of the bracket. All 3 of the Big Sky seeded teams are on the opposite side of the bracket from North Dakota State. Obviously, fortunate in terms of that, but is there any teams on that Big Sky side of the bracket that you feel like are could be capable of knocking off teams and representing that side of the bracket in a championship game?
Well, Maine is the other seed. It's the 7th seed on that side of the bracket, and they've been tremendous. Their quarterback, Chris Ferguson, keeps re-injuring his shoulder, so that's a concern for them. I mean, if you're looking at unseeded teams on that half of the bracket, I think you always think Northern Iowa, and then, they went out to Portland State a few years ago and got that win. There's Jacksonville State. But, I mean, when you have 3 seeded teams from the Big Sky, I think that sets up well for the conference. And I really think Weber or Eastern could be headed to Frisco.
I want to go back to this past weekend, though. That Brawl of the Wild was something that, every year we expect it to be fun. But have you ever seen a game between those two that's lived up to the name so vividly as what we saw last weekend?
Well, no. I mean, this rivalry is just fitting of classic games, and this was one of many, but it does seem to stand out the way it did end. I mean, it's clearly the most intense and bitter rivalry, if you will, in the FCS, so nothing is really surprising. I mean, I do think the Grizz let too many big leads get away from them or nearly get away throughout the season, and you have to love what the Bobcats did with those defensive stops in the fourth quarter, especially Grant Collins. Just a terrific rivalry, certainly among the best, if not the best, in the FCS.
Well, we touched on it briefly, but I want to pin you down. If when it's all said and done, who do you think's playing for that championship in Frisco?
I knew you would ask. Well, I mean, North Dakota State has a much tougher path than expected, as I mentioned. But I mean, they don't have to leave the Fargo Dome, and they're clearly a team on a mission because they're gunning for a record 7th FCS title. You have to like them. As I said earlier, I do expect Eastern or Weber to get to Frisco. I think Eastern seems to be on a bigger roll right now. Obviously, they lost the head-to-head to Weber, so they'd have to win there in Ogden. If you're asking me, I guess I'd go the Bison beating Eastern and down in Frisco.
Sounds great. Craig, we always appreciate it. Thanks so much for your insight. We look forward to catching up with you again here soon.
All right. Thank you, Scott.
You got it. That wraps it up. Another edition of This Week in Big Sky Football. Enjoy all the playoff games, and hopefully we're talking about Big Sky Conference teams leading right up to that championship in Frisco. Big thanks to everyone who joined us on today's show. Also, big thanks to Jay Catch filling in for Lloyd Cole and our executive producer, Denise Thompson. I'm Scott Gerard. Enjoy the games. Enjoy the playoffs. And we'll be back with you for another edition of This Week in Big Sky Football.